There we go. Can you all see this? Yeah.
Yes, that's all set up perfectly.
Excellent. Lovely. So this is funded from SSCR. I'm going to talk about the Safer Online Lives, which is about internet use and online safety for adults with intellectual disabilities. This project started really in February 2021. It's a 2-year project, so we've just started with data collection. So I just wanted to talk a bit about the background to begin with. So I'm not very sure if people know. It just occurred to me that people might not know what an intellectual disability is. So how we define this is for people having an intellectual disability, they need to have an IQ below 70, and they need to have a low adaptive behaviour, and all that happening in developmental ages, so below the age of 18 years. So this is what we would say when we would say that someone has an intellectual disability. So people with learning disabilities, you can have people with a mild learning disability, with moderate learning disability, and severe learning disability, and that would have differences in the way that people communicate, the cognitive ability, and so on. So adults with learning disabilities, and they increasingly use the internet and online resources, and they use it to socialize, they use it to access information, to shop, and now with COVID, oh my God, everybody has gone online, haven't they? So very timely project, really. Oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention is that here in the UK, we use the term learning disability just to confuse everyone. So intellectual disabilities and learning disabilities are the same thing. So the access to the internet, it has many benefits and obviously opportunities for people, but also there are many risks, online risks for vulnerable populations, such as people with intellectual disabilities. So there's a lot of exploitation or harm, and all these consequences, they can be very serious and long-lasting in some cases. So there's risks as well of digital exclusion. So digital exclusion in this population, so majority of people with learning disabilities, they live with their families, and so some of the research has shown that families or teachers, educators, and so on, sometimes they do keep them from the internet, so they don't give them access. So digital exclusion is a reality for this population, so losing independence and the great benefits of using the internet. So the idea of this project was to look at what are the benefits are, how people with learning disabilities use the internet, what the benefits of that are, what the opportunities are when being online, but also what the risks might be and what the barriers are, so if there are any. So what is it? So we don't know much about this population and the way that they use the internet. So this was the idea. And what we did to begin with, so I'm going to take you back a bit, the way that this idea came up. So when we were talking about all this with Michelle McCarthy, we thought, okay, we need to talk to stakeholders. And therefore, I had some contacts in MENCAP, East Kent MENCAP, and I just decided to go in and sit in for one of those coffees that Rebecca was talking about earlier on, and see what people had to say. So they had, so I think there were 9 people with learning disabilities there, 3 staff members and 1 social worker. By talking to them, the need for the project was very clear. Majority of the people, so all but 1 of the people with learning disabilities that they were using the internet. That talk, I just went into the meeting. I didn't go with a purpose, so it wasn't advertised as Vivi's going to come in to talk to you about internet use and safety. No, so I just went in, and part of the discussion it was about internet. I started asking questions, and it came out that a lot of people, they were exploited via the internet, financial abuse. They were talking to me about financial abuse. One of them was abducted. And it was just a shock talking to that random group of people with learning disabilities that just happened to be there, and all these things that were coming my way. And then talked to the MenCap staff and the social worker that was in there, and the need for the project was so clear. So we decided to go on about how, to go for it really. And MenCap and Dimensions, who is a service provider for people with learning disabilities, they also wrote letters of support for us for SSCR. So apart from that discussion that we had with MenCap in the TSAT Centre, we're really lucky that we have the RAG group, and the RAG group is a group of people with learning disabilities and autism. It's called the Researching Altogether group. And so this particular group, they have received training in advising research projects. So they have been advising quite a lot of research projects, and they have been involved in a lot of development of easy read materials in the past. So every time that we use their advice, we get together, we give them thank you vouchers as a way of a payment, as a thank you. So their involvement, they were involved from the very beginning. So after that focus group, after that chat that I had within MenCap, then I talked to the Researching Altogether group. So the involvement in conceptualizing the project, it was there from the very beginning, and they were also there to talk about practical things that I hadn't quite thought about. So it was great to have them there. One of the people with learning disabilities that we have in that group also has a carer with them. So that is a bonus, because then you have the input of a family carer as well. So we use that in a very nice way. So just a bit about, this is how we got to the concept of the project, and how we put down what we put down in the application in regarding to PPI and how we use things. So the participants of this project, they were adults with learning disabilities, and those adults, so adults that mean people above the age of 18, they all have the capacity to consent, and they must be either currently using the internet, or they must have used the internet in the past. So this is a population that we're looking at for the adults with learning disabilities. Participants are also carers, family carers, or paid carers of adults with learning disabilities that use the internet or have used it in the past, but also safeguarding practitioners. These are people, this is very broad, is anyone with a safeguarding element in the role, working or have worked in the past with adults with learning disabilities that have used the internet. And that could be, so it could be people from psychologists, psychiatrists, learning disability nurse, speech and language therapists, teachers, GPs, so anyone that might have that safeguarding element in the role, and working with people with learning disabilities. So what did we what did we do, or what are we doing actually, because we are actually doing it now. We are collecting questionnaires, so questionnaires of adults with learning disabilities. So these are self-report measures, and we are asking adults with learning disabilities to fill in the questionnaires. Family carers, paid carers, and safeguarding practitioners to all fill in questionnaires. And I'll come to back to that in a minute when I'll be talking a bit more about those questionnaires. So apart from the questionnaires, we're also going to be holding interviews with adults with learning disabilities. And we're going to be running focus groups, focus group with family carers, one with paid carers, another focus group with safeguarding practitioners, and then a fourth focus group where we're going to be bringing everybody together. And that's so that is the more qualitative part of the study. Now, we're also going to have some observations. So these are two types of observations that we are planning to do. And one of them is the think aloud observation, where you're sitting with the person with learning disabilities and you're asking them to actually go on and go online and show you kind of what sites are they going to, what are they looking at, how do they look at the privacy settings, or what is it they would do on their laptop, on their PC, on their tablet, but also how they would apply things on a tablet that we're going to provide. So actually looking at things in practice, having all the bits about the questionnaire, so having all the theoretical bits of how would you do this, or what do you do in this instance, then actually looking at things in real life. Another element of the observations is also going to be an application, so an app, an interactive app that we are now conducting with the School of Computing, and we are going to have avatars that the person with learning disabilities will need to advise. So the avatar is coming up saying, "Hi, I am Vivi, I've got a learning disability, and I just got this friend request on Facebook. And the friend request is asking me to add them as a friend and perhaps go out for a coffee. What do you think I should do? How should I react?" So A, Vivi should go out, accept the friend request, go out for a coffee. B, accept the friend request, but continue chatting. C, just delete. And that would have a different scenarios we'll be running from that. We haven't developed it yet. We are now in the process of collecting all the data from the questionnaires. So we haven't actually done the interviews or the focus groups or the observations. Actually, the observations and the scenarios, we haven't, we think that we know what we might be doing, but we want to get to the data from the interviews first before we actually put them into the scenarios and feed that in. So the RAG involvement, the Researching Altogether group, they have been so involved in the design of the final questionnaire. So in terms of the accessibility of it, but also in terms of content. We have two versions, an easy read version with pictures and an easy read again, but without pictures. And people can actually download it and fill it in, with pen and paper and send it back to us, or they can do it online. So the RAG group, they gave us advice on the wording. There's many things that we had to change and think through with them. The pictures that we are using, but also about the content. There were some things that they were coming up, like I remember having conversations about gaming. I don't know why, but we didn't have that many questions or any questions at all about internet gaming there, and as if that was not an option for this population. And then one of the RAG members said, "What about gaming? I'm playing games." And why didn't we thought about this? So very invaluable, their input, really. And this came on with the easy read with pictures and without pictures. So one of them, they were telling us that they know of they have a friend that every time that they would have to fill in a form and it had pictures on it, they saw it as childish and they would refuse to actually fill it in. therefore we decided that we'll have 2 options. They also helped us with information sheets and consent forms, and they will be we will be talking to them. So it's an ongoing process and an ongoing relationship that we've got with them about the accessibility of the avatars, the accessibility of the scenarios, and we're actually co-developing all the measures. And in hindsight, if I could go back to SSCR when I was writing this proposal, I think apart from having another part-time research assistant, I would want to have a research assistant with an intellectual disability. So that would be, I think, that would be that is something that is missing from this project, and I think that it would be so much, it would make it so much better. I actually wanted to show you, I'll stop sharing this, and I'm going to show you just the questionnaire, just for you to get a flavour of how is this looking. I don't know if you you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay,
yes,
lovely. So as you can see, I'm just going, so this questionnaire, it's an online questionnaire, so it's got all the so it's got the consent forms, information sheet is all there, and as you can see, the wording is simple, and this is not the online version. We have the printout version here, but as you can see, it's all with various pictures and all very accessible. I'm scrolling quite quickly because I want to go to the actual questions, and the way that these are coming up as options, and all the different pictures that are used throughout. The other thing is that in order to do the questionnaire, we're using Qualtrics, and I don't know if you've used Qualtrics, if anyone has used Qualtrics. It's very good, but also it's very tricky to add questions or make it very accessible. So we had to really fight for things, and things that they were supposed to take a very short time, they ended up taking very long time to actually try and make things accessible for people. So apart from the researching altogether group, we also have in the project, we have 2 advisory groups, steering groups. One advisory group is of people with learning disabilities, so adults with learning disabilities. We offered the place to all the research altogether group members, and they all wanted to be involved. And we also got some additional members from Mental Dimensions. We felt that it was appropriate to ask them first because they were the ones supporting us from the very beginning. And now we have 7 people with learning disabilities and autism, but they are involved in that advisory group. We also have a second advisory group of carers, professionals, academics, service providers, and people with learning disabilities. So representatives of the Learning Disabilities Advisory Group are coming on the professionals group as well. So in order to make things, in order to disseminate things, we created a Twitter account, and so this is where we have updates about the study, and we always try to have easy read versions. So if you want to follow us, this is at Twitter, so at ID Safer Online. And just to show you some of our tweets. So this is us introducing some of our the Researching Altogether group members. And as you can see, it's full of, so it was a way actually to recognize their input and show the importance of this project, and then get out there why is this important really? Why is participation in this this study important. So this is a way that we are trying to use Twitter and making sure that things are in a more accessible format. Again, for making things accessible, we so in order to make things accessible, we have made posters and leaflets that we are giving to organizations, NHS trusts, and so on, in order to get participants in. And here's a version. As you can see, again, they all have accessible pictures, easy read format, and in order for someone, so we thought for people, make it easier for people to get on the questionnaire, we also use the QR codes in order to make it easier. So here's the web page that we got, and again, University of Kent, they're not very used to easy read versions of web pages. I'm going to show you the web page. I don't know if that keeps in. Does it show the web page? Might
no.
not. Okay, I'm just going to. So here's the web page that we have now, and as you can see, there's a link for an easy read version that you can download, and so all the tweets and things, but also it's got pictures, and this is something again that we really had to work with the marketing team, and oh my god, it's so difficult to actually get things more accessible and out of the format. So we also included a short video of me talking about the study instead of someone having to read about it. Here are the links to the actual questionnaires. So a link to the adults, the family member, paid staff member, safeguarding practitioner, and all the information about the project team, the funders, how we work with the service users, and the contact details. Sorry, I know that I've been sharing and not sharing the screen a bit, but I thought that it was important really to show you those bits. Okay, so how are we? So this was the website, and here's the link if people would like to have another look at it. And I thought to talk about accessing participants for a bit, and talk about the NHS. So we have gone through NHS ethics, a very long journey of NHS ethics, and so it's the same as with the other projects that Rebecca was talking about, that they're ongoing amendments. So ethics wanted to know about so they even said, if you change a picture on the easy read version, we want to know about it. So we keep on going back with minor amendments all the time. They're going to be fed up with us at the end, I hope, and they're going to leave us alone. But good news is that we now have 34 NHS trusts interested in actually taking part in the study. The NHS trusts, they're acting as PICs, so that's the participation. I can't remember now what the acronym stands for, but the PICs, they're not research sites, and that means money. That equates to money for NHS trusts, so they're not getting paid the participants. They don't get the credit for the participants because they're only advertising the study. They're not actually taking consent. We also we thought that we're going to start like this, and then if we need to change that, that might be something that we need to look through. We also have 52 service providers that we have contacted, and 20 of them have already agreed to take part in the study. And we have contacted 164 local authorities. I don't have the exact number of how many they have said yes. They have said yes, but they're a bit trickier to get through. we also started now contacting colleges that they might have that age group of 18 to 21, so special needs colleges or further education colleges for people with learning disabilities. And so this is the way that we are trying to access participants. And so if you think about COVID as well, so because we are thinking of whether we can start visiting some of the sites, but obviously we were not able to. And initially the thought was that we would start with the interviews, and the interviews would feed into the content of the questionnaires. However, because of COVID, that wasn't, we felt that it was not a very good idea to start interviewing people via Zoom, especially people with learning disabilities. So we just turned things around, and we started off with a questionnaire, and so therefore the interviews are coming next. So at the end of the questionnaire, we have the research is taking place in England, but the questionnaire, the interviews and focus groups, we only open those up for people around London and Kent. So if someone is residing in Kent or in London, then additional questions are coming in at the end where they can express interest to get contacted for further for the interviews and so on, and the observations. So it's important with this project, I think that it's very important to showcase the impact, and I think that for people with learning disabilities, it's important to showcase what the impact is in such such a small population that you're looking at really here. So we work together with the Special Operations Unit, and that is part of the police, and the cyberbullying, so we've been talking with them, and they also involved in our advisory group, and they really want to actually, after the project, start thinking about how do we involve this particular population, how do we make things more accessible to them, and that's great impact. We are looking at recommendations to improve policy and practice around issues of internet use and online safety, and thinking about the white paper that came out about online safety and internet use, that did talk briefly about disability in general, but nothing about intellectual disabilities, which is one of the most vulnerable populations, looking at internet and online safety. And we are talking about accessibility again, of the privacy settings of social media platforms. We are currently talking with Facebook a lot, and we've got them now on board to start thinking about how they can change things. So it's important to actually showcase impact, or how you think that that logic model that now all the funding organizations that seem to really hot on. And then at the end of the study, we are going to be doing a workshop where we want to involve people with learning disabilities, all the different stakeholders, to discuss all the emerging findings, and that way to guide the final report that we're going to give to SSCR. And during that final workshop, we want to be discussing how the findings should be presented and how it should be included, and so how it should be included in that final for the funder. So involving them really, and taking so involving them in a way of not just giving us the information, but actually how do we communicate all that information that we got. And finally, apart from that workshop, we're also going to have 2 dissemination events, 2 accessible events, one in Kent and one in London. But also we're thinking of opening it up by Zoom and so on, so everyone and anyone can access. So we're inviting participants and different stakeholders to attend. So it's about what we were talking about, I think, early on. How do we communicate those findings? So I'm hoping that we will be able to involve the people with learning disabilities that we currently have in the advisory group in the dissemination event. So hearing it from their mouth rather than us going out and presenting the results or part of the results. So, and I really hope that we will be able to involve the people with learning disabilities, that they're part of the advisory group in relevant national conferences like the Seattle Club Conference. But if they're not, so we're thinking of COVID and everything that's been happening. So if they're not able to travel, we will include videos of them actually talking about the results, presenting parts of the study. So this is the plan. I don't know if I'm over any questions. I think that's me.